Welcome to a new episode of our podcast, Lead the Future, an unedited, honest conversation to change the conversation and create the future. I'm Arjan Visser, Futurist, and your host. And join me as I chat with my friend Mark Appleyard about authentic leadership transformation. Mark is a pioneer and a catalyst for transformation. He's a proven spiritual leadership advisor to executive leaders around the world. Mark, welcome to the show and making room in your busy planning for this podcast about authentic leadership transformation.
It is a pleasure, my 50-year-old friend. What a big week you had last week as you celebrated. And what was your thoughts around the series that you did, and you had different people on and all of that? Tell us a little bit about that from your perspective for a second.
Yeah. Well, I had a conversation earlier last week.
Yeah.
And someone who was joining in one of the panel discussions of the Alt Summit we run celebrated me with starting my birthday week. And then someone else who actually joined the summit started to ask me questions. How old will you become? And, what will you do for your birthday? And I said, well, I think I keep it silent. The age doesn't really matter. And, so that was fun. But no, of course, I just shouted out loud that it would be my milestone age.
Yes.
Turning 50.
Yeah.
And I had that idea boiling for months to do actually a challenge like I did when I turned 45, not 50. No. I'm living in the future sometimes, but not that far. And but then it changed somewhere in early March, where I thought, let's do panel discussions and run our first summit. That I've been talking with my peers in the mastermind for a while. Like, how can we do a summit? And let's do a virtual summit first. And so this was a great opportunity to have a few of my close peers talk about my subjects and giving so much back. It was a true gift to me in that sense, hearing all the wisdom, all the gemstones that I've been seeing growing over the years, but hearing them articulated by those people that are really close to my heart. That was fantastic.
Yeah. And it's not lost on me that I was there for the day 2, just as a viewer and really watching and learning. But the whole thing about a new language, I just find it's not lost on me that the whole process of learning a new language is actually having your current language reflected back to you. And in that process for you, even as you lead this space, that must have been a really interesting point. What was something that you found that really stood out to you out of that? Because again, lots of diamonds, as you've said, that just sort of fell. That you go, oh my gosh, that was me being spoken back to me. That actually feels right. Or boy, there's a shift in the nuance to the language on this piece. What were some of your thoughts?
Well, finding language to explain to yourself what your new mindset, your paradigm shift is about. I heard that in fragments all over the conversation.
Yep.
And that was the foundation for the panelists, their peers in their own journey. But what I heard most was actually that they made it their own. So I heard my own core premise in that sense echoed through their authentic stories. And what they shared is really theirs.
Yeah.
So it made me proud of them, hearing that they actually could handle what I have been, I would nearly say, harassing with for some people for years. Like saying, that language, what I hear is what you can do. I don't hear what you are about. Um, and one of the things of futurizing is also that you start to change your relationship with your own past, but also with history. And I heard gemstones for people like this, the simple line of life happens for me. That's a 20-30 year journey to not just say it but live it. And I've been involved in the last years of that journey and helping or pushing all the buttons to articulate it and to actually see that nothing was wasted in a person's journey, but now it comes together and starts to make sense, and probably it will have multiple new iterations because every step of the way you break down a bit of your old paradigm, creating space to let your new paradigm expand. And that was one of the things that for me really of huge value.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's so good. It's just a great subject in a fast-paced, changing world. Is again, what does it mean for us to have a new voice, and to have a voice that we're constantly allowing new vocabulary, new language, new nuance, and as you rightly point out, it has to come through a new lens. Otherwise, we just parrot the same thing. So it's a deeper understanding of ourself that enables us then to be able to develop a more language. We're actually on a call just earlier today back in Europe again. And a friend actually, Julie and I are on the call together with another husband and wife couple. And Julie gave an explanation about transition, and she comes from a midwife background, and she was explaining the nature of spiritual leadership transition and how it's actually very similar. And she's going quite detailed in all of that. And the person said, and they're a very educated person. They said that's one of the most not nuanced but sophisticated ways I've ever heard transition spoken. That is super helpful. Well, it's been years in the journey of Julie on that journey that now she has this language, and hearing her explain it over years, I'm hearing new pieces and new pieces and new pieces as she's articulating that. But that's coming because she's articulating it all over the world. We travel so much, and we're in spaces with entrepreneurs and groups of entrepreneurs very regularly, many times throughout each year. And as she shares that among many other things, but that part of transition, I just see it keep growing, and the language becoming more refined and more nuanced, and just to the point where someone who's in the midst of extreme transition or about to step into it, it's like, oh my gosh, that is just super, super helpful. What she's got a language right now for the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that is that we should really value of ourselves is that signature message, and some call it our origin story, some call it our converging story. I would just love to call it your voice, because all the other things are a grained soundbite, but not your voice. And what I started to understand is that having a clearer one-liner, two-liner definition of what the big idea is that you carry, not what you can do, not what you will focus on, or it's not about your action, but it's the big idea you are about. And ideas are conceptual, or spiritual, or imagination. You can use many words for that. It's the language that bridges it to a demonstration or a manifestation, or whatever word you want to label it, but it becomes a physical reality. So seeing it in your mind's eye, to translate that to hands and feet, to walk the talk, is language. So that we say faith comes by hearing, that follows seeing is believing, is really a truth. I would nearly say it's a law of nature to get concepts tested in a context which is relational. So, and you need to process it out loud because it always sounds different. And the Hebrew word revelation is that your ears are unstopped.
Right.
So it's not that you hear it for the first time, but you finally hear it. You know, it has always been there, but finally you hear that. So revelation is not that something is revealed like on a car show when the rod is taken off and you just see the car for the first time. Now it's that process of finding language to express.
Yeah.
And there is power in the language, you know.
Yeah.
You can repeat the past, you can create the future, and anything in between.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is just, you know, but what is your true voice? Because what is that core promise, that big idea that you are a unique carrier of?
And I think this is the point with the cohort model, the mastermind model, that is just so super helpful for people, because you get to try it out in a non-threatening environment. And because, you know, oftentimes, as you know better than any person, because you lead these types of sessions, that our true voice, it often is muted, or it's diluted, or it's coming from an angle that isn't truly integrous or congruent with who we really are, out of fear of man, out of insecurity, out of a misalignment when understanding of our own identity. And so being with a group of your peers where you can go, okay, this sort of feels like me, I'm going to put it out there, here goes. And know that the people are commenting to build you up, not to tear you down. You know, that is just, yeah, I think that's a one of the great tools. And to the point where you said in the introduction there, mate, you said about how, you know, these are people you've been walking with some for years. And I think that's a vital part of the journey, or the reality. We're in a world where take the class and you should now have got mastery. No, mastery takes time. It takes investment. It takes patience. It's the process of maturing. It's the marinating in it for a while, with trusted people. And all too often we want the quick, now. But the nature of who we are to be fully human is to allow time to walk and work on many of these things out. And I think to create spaces, or find spaces where you can. We have a community that meets in our home on a Tuesday night. And that community, some of those people we've been with for, well, they weren't there for the first year. So for 14 years, some of those people we've been walking with. And just seeing, firstly, who we are. We're different than we were 14 years ago. But actually seeing who they're becoming on that journey as well is just like, oh my gosh, they couldn't have gone from where they were to there in 5 minutes. It takes those years of walking out along the way, of iron sharpening iron, so to speak. And then finally going, oh, this is who we are right now. And to, yeah, I don't know, there's just something in that and there's a beauty of meaning in the tenure, in the time it takes. It's not devalued because it takes time. It actually increases in value because it takes time. And the nuance and the power of our words have so much greater impact because we allowed it to take the time.
I think you're spot on. Like, by thinking that we can just do a training, preferable online, so we can do something else at the same time. That doesn't develop skills. It doesn't even develop mastery. It's just a check on the box. It is just another line on your resume echoing what you complied to, but not who you are.
That's right.
And it is it becomes a consumable. And you mentioned like mastery. Well, we could say the same about autonomy or purpose. It's not a one-day thing.
Right.
It's not a definition we live by, a statement on the wall, because it's not about mastery. It's about maturity. It's not about autonomy. It's the first step to authority.
Yeah.
And it's not about the definition of your purpose, but it's about developed in relationship with others. All three things are the first step for a part of the journey, and that's called development. And we hear so much around us that, oh, I'm a lifelong learner. That is an empty phrase, because everyone grows day by day, learns every day. It is society that throws around labels connected to age that are empty.
Yeah, that's right. I can honestly say I didn't have any real sense of clarity around my purpose. Now, in saying what I'm about to say, doesn't mean I wasn't moving in the direction of what my purpose became. But the clarity until 20 years into the gig. And I can look back now, I've been in it 30 years, so 10 years now, I can look at it and go, oh my gosh. And the thing is, though, with that is still year after year, month after month, there's nuance and subtlety along that way. But I was 20 years before I got hyper-specific language around what that purpose was, where when it was first declared, it's like all the cells in my body snapped to attention, as if to say, this is who I am. And I didn't need the affirmation or that, because I just knew, a friend of mine puts it this way, my knower knew that this was a right statement, my internal knower that just says, yep, I know that this is right. But it was 20 years in the making to get to that point.
And in that moment, it was the insight that gave you the hindsight of the 20 years in the making.
Yeah.
And the foresight of the direction you are going.
Oh, well said. Exactly right. That's exactly what happened. Yeah.
And I love to always create an image around purpose and identity. So our identity, I always think it is something that needs to unfold. So, and through life and on circumstances, one side unfolds faster than the other side, but you want to unfold it fully, and then you get to your full identity. And that's an invitation that 20% of people start. 80% are not triggered by it, which is fine, which is all good. Not everyone wants to climb the summit of a mountain, and that's good. That's why summits are smaller than the base of the mountain.
Right, you fit less people on it.
Exactly. So there is no validation in that statement of what's right or what is less. Your purpose, I think it's always now, not present, not future, not past. It's now, but it feels like it's a spiral around your identity that unfolds and gets bigger, and it gets wider and wider. But because with your full identity, you will have more influence and more impact by doing everything through the one thing.
Yeah.
It's not generalists, specialists. That's about skills. Now this is about life and identity. So it feels like it's that spiral, and it's just going to swirl wider around you, unfolding.
That's right.
All the way till you have a fulfilled life and a last breath.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Hopefully not earlier.
Yeah.
So that's a bit. I love that. For me, that picture helps.
Right.
Not to get to step into like, I'm not living my purpose. That's not an option. You are.
That's
you
right.
are. It's
That's
unfolding.
right.
Purposes now. So it's not stepping in purpose. It's not stepping in alignment with purpose. No, it's now.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. You and I now have both lived long enough where we get the benefit of looking back with with a good memory for the hindsight, because we've been in the leadership space, intentional leadership space, for a long time. So we can go, okay, what can I look back and see and learn? And I think these seminal moments, these marker moments in our lives, we call them hinge moments of your history, that upon which many years will swing. We can identify those and then go, okay, now that happened back there where I got clarity, but what do I start to hear from those that are around me, or that I get to spend time with, or I'm invited into? And then just to the point, again, getting back to this week that's just been for you, then and holding that mirror up and going, what am I hearing? Is there congruency between what I really felt in my knower, that's who I was? And that's one of the fun things that we get right now, is there's just this sense of I'm hearing it back in a multiplicity of different ways and styles, that unsolicited, that people just say. I was invited to speak at an event in Texas. When was that? A few weeks ago now it was, and I was unable to go. Actually, it was the start of March, because it was when our little granddaughter was born, and I was unable to go. So it was the start of March, and anyway, so I was unable to be there. But I recorded something beforehand, and someone sent through the recording of the event with me speaking, and the host of the event asked, was there someone there that knew us who could introduce us prior to the video coming on? And so I was fascinated to go, all right, I'm not even in the room. How would they describe me? And I just sat back and go, oh my gosh, I could not have been better described, and with all the pieces imaginable, than what that person did when they were put on the spot. They weren't told, hours before, please come up with a description. They just go, oh, I will. And they stood up before the group and then said, this is and you need to listen, because this is going to be something that will change your life. I can guarantee you. And it's just, I don't know, there was something about that moment, but that I've got the benefit of years now, where I can look at it and go, that is really interesting. Totally unsolicited, without me being in the room, and they accurately describe who I am, not the modality by which I do it, but who I am. And that was just, really affirming. And says, okay, let's just continue this pathway that we're doing, because clearly it's having that kind of impact.
Yeah, and I believe that hasn't changed. It is, as long as we can go back in history, it's always about who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And life is about getting to your full I am statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but circumstances, in the first stage of every development, the circumstances, they cultivate the unfolding.
That's right.
And then there is this transition to, but now from the inside out, I start to influence the circumstances.
Yeah.
That transition of now I start to influence is something that is part of how time unfolds. We see through history moments that fully unfolded, and we refer to them as Renaissance. And there are rhythms in time that we have seen, and that's very interesting to see that the rhythms are still the same. The opportunities increase and decrease, and currently we are in a time rhythm phase stage that it increases. So now we can talk about it. For the last 15 years, we talk about reinventing leadership.
Right.
15 years ago, we didn't talk about that. But we see other events unfolding the last 15 years. So opportunity is there. I hear a lot of people say, well, the world is going faster. But maybe the world is not going faster because time still goes the same rhythm.
Right.
I think there is more acceleration for us because our ceiling is way higher than it was post Second World War.
Yep. Yeah, it's a fair point.
And we finished a time and age that still rules everything, which is the management age. We spoke about that a little bit on the third day. It is the creative age. And that's not just foresight of some people. Now it's the rhythm. Some call it the fourth industrial revolution. Some call it the sixth K wave. Some call it the 70th cycle of 50 years from the Hebrew calendar. And they're all in sync. And it is a connection with Renaissance, which all actually, I think it just means the creative age, where we fully can express our identity through our creativity in solutions we have never seen before. And the impossible becomes possible. And then my son, studying architecture, said, Dad, how many people do you think that 500 years ago, when Leonardo da Vinci, and all the other people that we now refer to, Erasmus Luther, Hugo Grotius, the whole foundation of our way of seeing nations. If you look to the history books, they were not even credited for saying something smart.
Right.
So it's history will look back and say, that was the Renaissance. That's where it was birthed. It took us a while before we saw it.
Yeah, that's well said. It's when I look at the nature of becoming, of being, of what is yet to be, I did, what many people have done, and then continued on this process again till it's like, and that was actually sat down and thought, okay, if come the day I die, if I had the power to choose what I was to put on my headstone or my epitaph, what would it be? And again, many people have done this. It's an incredibly distilling exercise because you've got one sentence effectively to summarize and then go, okay, what am I doing that actually enables that to be? And is that even a right sentence? And so I put it on, I would say now I'm probably talking maybe 15, 20 years ago was when I started that process. And then I'd write it and I'd put it in a file in my drawer by my desk. And then, we'd move that file would come with me. And every so often I'd feel prompted to get it out. And I just put sticky notes for a few weeks on my desk. And when I got a moment or two, I'd reiterate or, just go through and change it around. And it's probably 7 or 8 years ago now where it really sat. And it sort of speaks to what we're talking about here, in that we're in this fast-paced world. Who are we becoming? And are we going to be known for more stuff? Are we going to be known because, we made a system work better? Are we going to be known for whatever? And I just thought, I don't want to be known for any of that. I actually have no interest in being known for any of that. And I'm an intelligent guy. I actually designed this whole studio. I have an electronics background, a creative background, all of that as well. I was a professional musician, worship pastor for 10 years, run business for the last 30 as well. So there's many strings to my bow along the way, but I don't want to be remembered for any of that. And as I sort of distilled it down, it came down to this, and it's just sat so right that here lies a man who is loved perfectly by God. And I sat there and there was something about that, because it actually said nothing about me. It said everything about my creator or my source. And for me, that was the most important thing. That would, if when people came by, it caused a question, then that question pointed more towards, the person that's influenced my life more than any other, then that's the win. And what for me is I got many skills, and I've got some, great leadership insights that have helped many people across there. We've worked out nearly 40 nations we've been actively working in, measurably working in. So it's not as though we've been sitting idly, but we are creating more and more and more space to be able to sit and reflect. And for me, what am I reflecting on? I'm reflecting on, how am I being loved by God? And then how does that impact the interactions I have with the people around me? When I leave, they go that actually, I learned some skills. I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt understood. I'm learning now that people are hearing now that people are going, they also felt loved, even though I mightn't have even used that word, that people are feeling loved. And I go, that is just really curious. But creating space in this noise, this cacophony of change and shift, and to the point you rightly make, we have the same 24 hours. We are powerful enough for the most part to choose all of that, how we use it. I remember a mentor of mine years ago And when I say mentor, he was mentor like a group. So it wasn't one-on-one so much as in a group. But Dr. Wayne Cordero out of Hawaii, half Japanese, half Hawaiian. He's like Mr. Miyagi. And this is a long time ago now. And we were sitting in a group, and he was I still haven't met personally a more influential leader. Not to say they're not out there. I've just never met one more. Just phenomenal leader. And he was a much older man than I, and he was also a jazz pianist. And he's got this group of leaders from all around the world. There was 50 of us, and we did a whole week living out of his back pocket in Hawaii for a whole week. When he was up at 5 a.m. running on the beach, we were. When he was in leadership meetings, we were there with him. And then he would get us out on outrigger canoes, racing each other. And then we'd sit down on the beach, and he'd teach us about, leading as a team. And he's just a phenomenal leader. Anyway, he gets up on the stage, and he has this piano, and he says, "Gentlemen and ladies, which one of these is music?" And I'm a piano player as well. And the first thing is he gets his arms and he bashes them on the keys, making this horrendous noise. And then he stops, and then he plays this beautiful piece of classical music. And everyone's saying, well, of course, it's the second one. He goes, well, yes, it is, but why? And people are going, well, there's harmonics in the second one. And, the notes make sense together. They're in the same key. He goes, well, that's sort of right, but not always right when it comes to music. And so, a number of different suggestions were brought forth. And then he goes, what makes music is this. It's not the notes that make the music. It's the space between the notes that makes the music. And again, as a young leader, that really challenged me. And he's going, what space are you putting between the noise of your leadership? What time for reflection? What time for detailed, deep conversations with others that you can sit and ponder and let a thought sink in and go deeper and deeper and deeper? And where is the space between the notes or the noise? Again, we all get that 24 hours. And I think to that point, in this world that we're in, is I want people to know that they have been loved by God too in my leadership without me even needing to say it. It only happens when I create space for me to sit and reflect and marinate in that for myself.
Yeah, it's so true. And life is not about collecting the notes or the keys of the piano.
No.
It's about finding your tune.
That's right.
Space.
That's right.
And play that part that you play. And it's the music that people receive. It's not about the pianist, but when the pianist is not there, there is no music.
That's right.
And in that journey as well of like what's that great idea that you're called to carry, that the explanation and the new language of that idea is not about you. But it's only going to work, that great idea, when you share it, when you carry it, when you lead it. So in your absence, there is nothing. And in your presence, it is the great idea. And that really helped me, and also so my peers, to get more clarity about not writing myself in.
Yep.
But getting the language. And the big fruit of it is when you share your great idea, your listener can hear it. And if he resonates, it sounds like his idea.
Right.
That's where connection starts.
Yeah.
In whatever type of relationship.
Yeah.
But you don't want your listener first to deal with that he's not you. So it's not about you. It's about the big idea.
Yeah.
Although your identity statement, your explain, is all about you introducing you. And that was what we talked about on my birthday. And and I'm really, really curious what comes out of it. Like I shared with you up front.
Yeah.
I've pushed everything last half year that is part of my converging out there. And that's a risk, that's vulnerability, but it also means this is it. This is the one thing I understand now that I have to go through that loophole of convergence. And I really want to give that as an encouragement to people we nearly say people in leadership, which is everyone.
That's right. We're all leaders.
If you're in a position of leadership and you're not a visionary leader, then I have to say, sorry, leadership is about having a vision that is bigger than your language set right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't see yourself as a leader, start leading yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And one of the debates I hear a lot is like, I'm end 40s, I'm early 50s. I should now have figured it out. I should now have things in order. I should have my mortgage paid off, or at least a huge percentage. All those kind of things. I can tell you one thing: the people that go for convergence don't have things sorted out financially, physically. They are focused and fully invested.
Yep, that's right.
And those two things, if you're focused, you know what distraction is. If you get more focus, you will have more clarity what's right in front of you. Clarity is not seeing around the corner. Clarity is no longer fog around what's in front of you. That gives you more focus, which means everything else starts asking for your attention, and that's called distraction. And you're fully invested. It's not what you have achieved. It's not your track record. It's not your long list of rewards and certifications and all those things. Now am I fully invested for the one thing that I became aware of, that I'm called to go after? And those people who have those things, they have not a comfortable ride. Not at all. They have not a comfortable ride. They're not convenience suckers.
Right.
They also have no destination addiction. They're fully focused on what's next. I'm prepared. I anticipate. I've dealt with my expectation. I've dealt with my distraction. But what's next? And that space can feel like a vacuum.
Yeah, it sure can.
But we know what happens in a vacuum. Well, that's what I remember back from high school. Things have different speed.
Yeah, that's right. That's good stuff, man. That really is. Yeah, we around here use the language like this. It's the power of a partnered yes. And when we know what it is that we're saying yes to and choose to say yes to, we actually use way less emotional energy trying to say no to things that would otherwise distract. And when we got clarity and just go, and I for me, it's every morning when I get out of bed, before I have a conversation with another living soul. I've been doing this for over a decade, maybe 15 years now, and I can't name too many days this hasn't happened. But it's a real process that I go through every morning, and it just in spiritual terms, because that's the space I'm in, spiritual leadership for marketplace leaders. I call it it's commanding my spirit and commanding my spirit man to come up and into alignment with God's spirit, and it's this choice to say yes and to speak to me, to call me up. And it just dawned on me one day, why aren't I so distracted by all of these things anymore? And it doesn't mean I don't have some days where I am. I mean, not, of course, I do, but for the vast, way less, and more so, there was just less and less and less and less and less. And then I realized I actually was spending less time actually going, oh, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't watch this. I shouldn't think this. I shouldn't be there. I had way less time on those things because my yes was just so clear, and I'd commanded self-leadership. I'd commanded myself into alignment with what I wanted to say yes to before the day had even begun.
Yeah, that's good. Well, also stopping the fire hose towards our listeners.
Yes.
So, Mark, what are the 3 things that stood out in our half-hour plus conversation?
Yeah, I think really at the end of the day that, that language matters. It really does. Language is really, really important. I think just actually having some clarity on what your purpose is really, really important. And then actually, what are you going to do to step into and activate that right now? What is that step? What is the activation? Because we can sit and talk crazy till the cows come home, as we would say. But really it achieves nothing. There comes an action point, an activation point. We call it the puke factor when we talk about faith, spelled RISK. On the S is step in and activate the change. And usually we know it's the right one when we just want to throw up because it's so big. It's beyond, again, what we've got. I know we're at the right point when there's questions we have answers to, there's questions we don't have answers to, and there's questions we know we don't even know how to ask yet, but we step in and here goes. And I think that's a vital part because we're never going to get real clarity again until we do that. Because now we've got new information through which to process to gain greater clarity still.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the one thing that I want to add to that, this journey is not possible without peers.
Yeah.
It's the most valuable thing. And I just remember when I shared the idea to start with the peer mastermind with you, you echoed, you confirmed, you pushed me to say, yeah, but that is, and now 5.5 years later, I could say, if you are a leader and you're not lonely, I will challenge you on having a vision. But your loneliness is not an excuse for isolation.
Right.
And there are other people, and dealing with your loneliness, it's a privilege to be in a space where things are born. But you need peers around you to get out of the cave,
Yes.
Test your language in a safe space. And we all know if you do it with your own inner circle, things go really nasty quite fast. So peers are for me the thing that I'm most grateful for in the leadership journey.
Amen. That's good, my friend. How can people get a hold of you? Because you got some new things that are sort of setting up right now. How can they get a hold of you?
Well, we started the Authentic Leadership Transformation Forum, which is a future-focused Q&A space for leaders to keep momentum in the journey of who am I, what's my leadership, and how do I turn my strategic foresight into action. The easiest way is actually what I always say: let's connect. If you've heard this conversation and there is something that triggered you, resonated with you, step into it and reach out, connect, short call, connect. Where are you at? Where I am at? How do we resonate? And what could be a next step in that sequence? So I just invite you to be serious about what triggered you and reach out. businessrevivalist.com/connect is the easiest way to just get a 15-minute time slot and we can explore a bit more. Also, if you want to know and connect with Mark, just use social media, connect with direct message Mark or me. We're both tagged in all social media streams of this podcast, so it should be easy to connect. But as always, don't wait. If you feel the trigger, connect now, because in 5 minutes you are distracted. Mark, thank you.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
And looking forward to our next conversation.
Yes.
Let's do one before we do another podcast. Just one-on-one.
That sounds good.
Take care.